Welcome to Books versus Movies, the podcast where I set out to answer the age-old question, is the book really always better than the movie? I'm Yuvia, an actress and book lover based out of New York City, and today I will be discussing Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams and its 2024 TV miniseries adaptation, Queenie, streaming on Hulu. Hi everyone, how are you? I'm really excited for this episode. I know I say I'm excited for every episode, but I'm really excited for this episode because I really enjoyed the story of this series and book, and this was one that I kind of just found on Hulu. I think I just searched like best series on Hulu because I didn't know what to watch, and I was on my TV watching kick. I don't watch a lot of TV. I've always been a film lover. I've always preferred film over TV, but I have my kicks in which I do watch a lot of TV, and this is one of them, and I found it after searching on Hulu, and then I discovered that it was based on a book, and I'm excited to bring it, especially because it is by a British novelist. And so, yes, this is a British novel. It is a British TV show, and I love it. It was great. I love London. It is my favorite city in the world, and I wish I could live there, but alas, that's not the case right now. Maybe one day I'll live there, but yeah, and so it was really just like, I loved seeing the different aspects of London and like the different suburbs. Obviously, I've been to the more touristy parts, but it's always cool to see like the more hidden parts of it. And I swear the apartment building where Queenie's friend Cheske lives is used in like every single British TV series. I'm not even joking. Like I feel like it was the same one used in Behind Her Eyes, and I don't know. I feel like that is the only apartment building in London, or maybe that is the only apartment building built on a soundstage, but everyone uses it. I swear. If they're filming an apartment scene in London, at least the exteriors take place in that building. So I don't know, unless they all look the same, but I just feel like I've seen this building 2 or 3 times before. But anyway, I digress. So yes, Queenie, written by Candice Carty-Williams, was first published in 2019, and it follows our protagonist, Queenie Jenkins, who is a 25-year-old Jamaican-British woman living in London, and she's trying to balance 2 cultures and kind of failing at both. So she works at a national newspaper. She constantly has to prove herself in this newspaper. She is currently fresh out of a really messy breakup from her long-term boyfriend who's white. His name is Tom. And Queenie starts to cope in all the wrong ways. And by all the wrong ways, I mean with all the wrong men who are just using her for her body, essentially. And as the novel progresses, Queenie starts wondering, why am I doing this? What do I want to be? And she starts making changes to improve herself and her life. The 2024 miniseries, Queenie, follows Queenie Jenkins, who is a 25-year-old Jamaican-British woman living in South London, living in between 2 cultures and fitting into neither. So I will say this is a really solid adaptation, and there were definitely some changes that I preferred in the novel is great, but there were some minor issues that I saw the miniseries first, so I was expecting some of the things that happen in the miniseries to happen in the novel, and when they didn't happen, I was like, I'm kind of glad they changed that, honestly. I tend to be a purist, but in this case, I feel like it elevated the storytelling and Queenie's arc in a much more fulfilling way. So that being said, as always, here is your spoiler alert. If you are interested in watching Queenie, which I highly recommend, or if you are interested in reading Queenie, which I also highly recommend, then watch it, read it, and then come back. Let me know what you think. But honestly, I really do recommend both. They are fantastic. So yeah, at the start of the mini series and the start of the book, we meet Queenie, and she is at a health clinic, and it is there that she discovers that she had a miscarriage. It's one of those things where she had no idea she was pregnant, and she had no idea that she had just experienced a miscarriage. She had been experiencing some concerning health issues, and she went to the clinic, and that's when they told her, and she's obviously in shock. In the book, she has already broken up with Tom, who, as I said, it's her long-term boyfriend. He is white, and Queenie is, as I said, she's Jamaican-British, so she's black. She's already been broken up with him for, it hasn't been that long at all. It hasn't even been a month since they broke up, but it's one of those things where she reaches out to him, and he's kind of like, we're not together, you shouldn't be talking to me. And she's like, but I really need to talk to you about this. Like, this is something you need to know. And he's like, nope. Like, we're not supposed to be talking, so don't talk to me. And so she never has anyone to really help her through her conflicting emotions of like, not only was I pregnant, like, I just lost this baby. And she doesn't really, it's one of those things, the relatives she's most closest to are her grandparents and her Aunt Maggie, and all three of them are very traditional and very religious. So she doesn't really feel comfortable confiding in them that she had a miscarriage. And she's scared to talk to her friends about it as well. And so the person she wants to talk to the most about this is Tom. This is his baby as well. And now this baby is no more. And so it's a lot of emotions running through her, and she doesn't have anyone to talk to. In the TV series, they're still together. So at one point in the book, to get a glimpse into the final moments of their relationship, Queenie talks about how this incident at Tom's mother's house during her birthday party, in which she was experiencing a lot of like microaggressions, and she was kind of upset that Tom didn't stand up for her. And so she just couldn't take it anymore, and she said something, but it's one of those things where she didn't realize she said it out loud. Like, she thought she had thought it, and then when she looked at everyone's faces, she realized, oh crap, I actually said that out loud. So that kind of caused a big riff, and while that wasn't the official end of the relationship, that was kind of like the nail in the coffin. Tom's biggest issue with Queenie is just that he would always try to talk to her, and she had like a wall up, like emotionally she wouldn't open up to him in any shape, way, or form. So he couldn't take it anymore, and he broke things off. In the mini-series, she finds out that she had the miscarriage, and it's the same day as Tom's mom's birthday party. So she finds out the news about the miscarriage and kind of has to put herself together to go to this birthday party. And so she's like a bottle of emotions. She just wants to talk to Tom, but she has to play nice because it's his mom's birthday. And finally she just snaps, and they say like I said, they're being really microaggressive towards her. So finally she says something out loud, doesn't realize that she says it out loud, until everyone's kind of looking at her shocked, like, you really just said that? And she's like, oh crap. So that happened. And in the TV series, this is when Tom officially breaks up with her. She leaves, she goes to the bus stop, and Tom is like, what the hell was that? And she's like, what do you mean, what the hell was that? Like, why didn't you stand up for me? And he's like, that's just how my parents are, like, they don't know any better. And she's like, well, you should teach them how to be better. And he's like, well, you need to learn how to talk to me. And she wants to tell him so badly about the miscarriage, but as I said, it's really hard for Queenie to open up, so she doesn't. And Tom can kind of sense that she's holding things back, just like she always does. And he's like, I can't take it anymore, like, it's over. And he breaks up with her in that first episode after the birthday party. So after they break up, Queenie does try to, in the TV series, she does try to find other ways to cope first. She asks all her friends, so her three friends are Darcy, Cheske, and Cassandra. So Darcy and Cassandra are both white. Cassandra is Jewish as well, and Cheske is black. I believe she's Nigerian. She's of Nigerian descent. Anyway, so those are her three friends, and she's like, how should I cope? And they all offer up different ways to cope. and Cassandra's like, you're gonna try yoga with me, and Queenie tries yoga and she does not like it. It's not for her. It's like making her more uncomfortable, so she's just like, no, I'm done. I'm not doing yoga. And then Chesky's the one that's like, you just gotta sleep with a lot of men, and that's when Queenie decides to start like sleeping with a lot of men. Darcy kind of says like, you should start putting yourself out there, and so like Darcy makes her a dating profile, and then Chesky's the one that's like, just sleep with a lot of men, like it's fine, like sleep them out of your system essentially. So that's what she ends up doing. She starts hooking up with all the men that reach out to her on her dating profile that Darcy created. So she does try other ways of coping first. In the TV series, doesn't really work out, so that she starts turning to sex. In the book, she pretty much starts immediately by having sex with a lot of people. And the first person that she has sex with, which I'm so glad they changed this in the TV series, this is one of the changes I really appreciated, is the first person she has sex with after her breakup with Tom is Adi. Adi is of Middle Eastern descent. He drives for Uber, and every single time he sees Queenie, he's always flirting with her and hitting on her, and she's always like denying him. She's like, you're married, you're married, you're married. And in the book, she's like, F it, and she sleeps with him knowing that he's married. And I really didn't like it. That just did not sit well with me. Like, no, I really did not sympathize with Queenie at this point. I grew to sympathize with her as the book went on, but in this moment I was like, no. In the TV series, every single time she's like, you're married, he's like, we're breaking up, we're divorcing. And so when she decides to sleep with him, like, she thinks that the marriage is over, and so it's like okay to sleep with him. And then she ends up coming across Adi and his wife later on in the book and the TV series, and the wife confronts her and is like, why are you sleeping with my man? And obviously in the book it doesn't come as a shock. She's like, yeah, I kind of had this coming. And I was like, yeah, you really did. But in the TV series, like, I'm so sorry, he told me you guys were broken up. And she's like, well, we're not. We're still together. We've always been together. We've never been in the process of breaking up ever. So Queenie does feel really bad about that. But we get a montage of her sleeping with a bunch of guys. And I feel like she does sleep with a lot of guys in the book, but I feel like she sleeps with more in the book. I mean, more in the TV series than she does in the book. Until she meets Guy. She meets Guy on Halloween in the TV series. She's working an event. So she and her friend Darcy work at the same newspaper, and she goes to this event to help Darcy out. And she meets Guy and completely ends up neglecting her responsibility to assisting Darcy, and Darcy is understandably very upset. She's like, it's fine, just like go with him. Like, you're not even helping me at this point. You're more of a hindrance. You want to be with this guy, like just go. And she's upset. In the book, Queenie does go to help Darcy out, but she actually meets Guy after Halloween. It's like, and Darcy's a lot more like okay with it in the book than she is in the TV series. Like in the book, she's like, whatever, it's fine. Yeah, you can leave with him. I didn't really need your help. It turned out okay. So yeah, in the TV series, we get her neglecting her relationships with her friends a little bit more than she does in the book. In the book, she doesn't really neglect her friends that much, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I like that she doesn't neglect her friends in the book. And I do wish the TV series had explored this a little bit more, because we do see that Darcy's like upset that Queenie's like neglecting her a little bit. She confronts her, and this confrontation does happen in the book too. Like Darcy's like, everything's always about you. And Queenie does end up apologizing and realizes like, yeah, I do kind of make things all about me. But I feel like there's more tension in the TV series when it comes to this, but I wish it was explored a little bit more. Because after Darcy's like, it's always about you, and they have like a fight, the next episode things are kind of resolved again kind of easily. But anyway, so I guess she does sleep with more guys in the book now that I think about it, because like once she meets Guy in the TV series, like that's the only guy she sleeps with for a while. In the book, Guy is the guy she sleeps with most often, but she's still sleeping with other people in between. So in the TV series, like once she meets Guy and they start their sexual relationship, like it's pretty much just him. And Guy's really rough when it comes to having sex. He likes really, really rough, violent sex, to the point where Queenie's really sore after one particular sexual encounter, and she goes back to the health clinic that from the start of the book and the TV series, and they even ask her like, were you sexually assaulted? Because it's like the damage to her genital area and just that area is just really bad. Like, I guess these are traumatic signs that you would see in rape victims. And she's like, no, it's consensual. And it is, but they're like, the clinic doesn't believe her. And they're like, okay, well, if you decide to press charges later, here's how you can do that. And she's like, I promise, like, it was consensual. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to refer you to a therapist in that case. And so they refer her to a therapist. I will say in the book, she really doesn't like having sex with Guy. She's looking for that emotional connection. And obviously Guy's not giving it to her, but like a lot of the times after they're done having sex, like he'll fall asleep and spend the night. And so she'll find ways to cuddle up to him, and it never lasts very long because as soon as he feels her cuddling up, he's like, nah, get off me. But she doesn't really like it. It is still consensual, but she doesn't like it. In the TV series, she does like it. She enjoys this really rough way of having sex a lot. Like, she enjoys it. I was going to say a lot more, but it's like she enjoys it as opposed to the book. In the book, she really does not enjoy it. In the TV series, she actually really enjoys her sexual encounters with Guy, even as sore and as damaging as apparently they are. She really enjoys it. And in the book, she doesn't. At one point in the TV series, so Tom is pretty much kind of like how I said at the beginning, Tom is pretty much like no contact. Like, it's a clean break. We're not talking to each other. Like, if we keep talking to each other, we're never going to get over each other. So no talking is allowed. And so it's been really difficult, but she's been able to keep her end of the bargain. And obviously it's easy for him to keep his end of the bargain until one day on Christmas Eve in the TV series, he messages her and says, "Merry Christmas, XX." Which, as a reminder, stands for kiss kiss. So she's like, wow, what does this mean? And she starts like second guessing what it could mean. And she's like asking all her friends, like, what does it mean? Like, why is he reaching out to me? Do you think he wants to get back together? Like, this is a Christmas message. And her friends are all like, I don't know, maybe, I mean, it could just be a Merry Christmas message. And she's like, no, like, there has to be some deeper meaning behind it. And this leads her to, so in the book and the TV series, there's Ted. Ted works at the same newspaper that she does, but he works in a completely different department. So they run into each other occasionally, but they don't see each other often. And in the TV series, like, anytime they interact, like, it's obvious that he has a crush on her and that he's trying to find ways to speak to her. And at one point, like, he discovers her at a bar and she's like really, really drunk, and he like takes her home and takes care of her, and he doesn't attempt to do anything. Like, he looks genuinely worried for her, but there isn't really any interactions between the two of them at this point until Christmas Eve. Her boss calls her and is like, I need you to work on Christmas Eve because we need to get this ready and I'm out of town. And so she goes into the office on Christmas Eve, and it's only her, Ted, and the other woman, which I don't remember her name, but she's like that one coworker. Like, she does not interact with anyone. She is there to work. She likes peace and quiet, and she doesn't interact with anyone. Like, she's there when she's in the office, she's working, and she is not going to talk to anyone. So she's like, Queenie has interacted a little bit with Ted, but there hasn't been much. And it isn't until like her confusion over her text with Tom, and it's only the three of them in the office, and they start talking to each other there, and there's obvious sparks and chemistry, and finally she attempts to kiss him, and he's like, no, we shouldn't, like, it's wrong. And she's like, yeah, you're right. So she goes into the bathroom to like cool off, and when she opens the door to the bathroom, he's right there, and then he goes in after her, close the door, and they have sex. But it's really like the most unsatisfying sex ever, because he literally finishes in like 5 seconds, and that's not an exaggeration. Like, she's very like, oh my gosh, like I have great chemistry with this guy, like we're gonna have great sex, and it's over. Okay, so it's the text message with Tom and like her confusion over that and what it could mean, and the fact that there's like instant chemistry between the two of them is what leads her to have sex with him in the TV series. But in the book, she and Ted actually start interacting with each other a lot sooner. Like I said, their first real conversation in the TV series is on Christmas Eve while they're there working. In the book, they meet and they have this instant connection with each other, and they start sending flirty emails to each other, and they both end up working on Christmas Eve. However, Tom in the book does not send Evie does not send Queenie a Merry Christmas message. This is just them acting on months of chemistry and flirty messages between the two of them. And so there is no like hesitation on Ted's part. Like they're in it. They're like, you like me, I like you, let's have sex. And they do. And it's really unsatisfying. And Queenie's like, wow, that was disappointing. So yeah, there's no text message from Tom, and there's more interaction between her and Ted before they finally have sex. Tom does end up messaging Queenie in the book though, except he wishes her a happy new year. So after the new year, let's go with the TV series since there was less interaction between her and Ted. So she sleeps with Ted, and then they don't talk to each other for the rest of the year until the new year when they come back to work. And she sees him and she's like trying to talk to him, and he's like obviously avoiding him. And then she's like, oh hell no, we're not doing this. So she like goes up to him and is like, what is going on? And he's like acting really shady, and he's just like, no, nothing, nothing. And then a woman who's there she was like invited to give a presentation at the newspaper. She shows up and she's like, hey Ted, who's your friend? And he's just like, oh, it's no one. And then she's like, again, Ted? And that's when you find out that this woman is Ted's wife. And this is not the first time Ted has cheated on her. And she is also currently pregnant with his child. So this very pregnant woman is like, again, Ted? And Queenie's like, oh, wow. And so she just walks away because she's in absolute shock. She had no idea this guy was married. She had no idea this guy was in a relationship, like nothing. So she walks away and is like immediately disgusted with Ted, as she should be. In the book, the way she ends up finding out, like he's still acting weird towards her, like he's avoiding her. And at one point she finally corners him and is like, why are you avoiding me? And he's like, I'm not avoiding you. I don't know what you're talking about. And then another coworker is like, hey, Ted, how's the wife? And that's when Queenie's like, oh, you're married. Great. And so she walks away. So yeah, in the TV series, she meets Ted's physical wife and finds out that Ted is a serial cheater and his wife is pregnant and all these awful things. And in the book, it's a mutual coworker spills the beans. So Ted, being the little cowardly bitch that he is, he goes to HR and is like, yo, like Queenie's making me really uncomfortable. She keeps hitting on me and I don't know what to do. And so she's suspended from her job while there is an investigation going on, which is like, Ted, man up, please. Like, man up. You're the one that cheated on your wife. And like, no. Ted, man up. So Queenie, as I said, is suspended. And since she's suspended, Queenie ends up moving back in with her grandparents. In the book, in the TV series, it's more of like she has a panic attack and she moves back in to be with family. And in the book, she does have a little bit, like she does have indications of like panic attacks, but the TV series makes it like super clear. In the book, while she is on leave, she starts going to therapy, which she does in the TV series as well, but she really spends most of her time like doing chores for her grandparents and going to therapy. And in the TV series, she starts exploring. She's really depressed at first. She doesn't want to do anything. And then little by little, her friends and family coax her and start going out into the world, and she starts discovering like how she wants to tell stories because she works at this newspaper because she wants to tell stories that matter to her. So anytime she tries to bring up a story about like Black Lives Matter or anything really, like she wants to tell Black stories, it's shut down. And kind of just like, no, we don't have a place for that in this newspaper. And in the TV series, like she starts exploring, like, if I want to tell the stories that I want to tell, like I can just tell them through the use of social media. I don't need to work at this newspaper to be a journalist and bring stories that matter to me out into the world. So she kind of starts exploring other things. In the book, she definitely focuses on family and therapy. So in the TV series, as I said, on Christmas Eve, it was her, Ted, and that coworker who was just there to work. Well, that coworker, after some time, is during the investigation, she goes and she's like, hey, whatever happened between Queenie and Ted, it was mutual. Like I saw their interactions, like it was mutual, and Ted is a fucking liar. So she's called back into the office and her boss is like, we're so sorry. Like, this coworker came forward and told us what happened and Ted has been fired and you're welcome to start immediately. And Queenie's like, great. Well, thanks for firing Ted. I actually don't want to work here anymore. I'm gonna quit and I'm gonna be a journalist in my own way. And she leaves and she doesn't go back to that newspaper. In the book she does. So she and it's different. That same coworker is there in the book, but I guess that coworker just really minds her own business because she does not come forward. It's actually a security guard who turns over the security footage of the day they were working, and they see like Ted following Queenie into the bathroom and that it's not her like harassing him. So Queenie gets her job back immediately. The investigation is still ongoing though. So Ted, like in the TV series, Ted is fired immediately. In the book, he's not. He's still there while the investigation is going, but it's like, you're not allowed to talk to each other. And then he ends up sending her an email and Queenie, when she's allowed to return back to the office, like Ted is like, hey, like, I'm really sorry I lied to you. And she's like, nope, you're not talking to me. We're not allowed to talk to each other. Like, back away. And he doesn't back away. And then Cheske, good old Cheske, we love Cheske, shows up and is like, did you not hear her? Like, back off. And she like hits him with her purse. And then of course this like other random white bystander shows up and is like, yo, is she attacking you? And he's like, before Ted can respond, Cheske's like, excuse me, like, I know you saw him going after my friend and you heard my friend say, get away from me, and you didn't do anything. It isn't until I hit this man in self-defense of my friend that you check up on him. Like, you should be checking up on her. And this random bystander's like, right. And he walks away and leaves. And it's like, thank you, Cheske. They have that encounter. And then after that, he sends Queenie an email and is like, I just want you to know, like, I will leave my wife for you. Like, I don't even love my wife. I kind of just married her because I was getting up there in age and I really wanted to start a family. And I know she's pregnant and it's like really gonna suck. But like, if you want to be with me, like, I'll dump her in 2 seconds flat. And so Queenie's like, all right. So she prints out the email and gives it to her boss. And that's when Ted gets fired. And then her boss sends her to like a music show to review the show. And it is such a well-written critique that she from then on becomes like the live music reporter at the newspaper. So now her job at the newspaper is to go to live events. And I guess it isn't just music. It's just like live events. She's going to go to them and she reports on them and critiques them and reviews them, essentially. So, and in the book, she does keep her job at the newspaper and she's perfectly happy staying on as this like live events reporter. But in the TV series, she does say, no, I want to tell my own stories. I want to tell the stories of Black women, specifically from my grandma to just other women that I admire and respect and that are doing something in London, whether they're artists or filmmakers or whatever. And I want to interview them and I want to tell the stories. And that's the story I want to put out into the world. So throughout all this, in the book and the TV series, we end up finding out that it's probably difficult for Queenie to cope, first of all, and just open up emotionally because she was briefly abandoned as a child. So her mom had her when Queenie's mom was a teenager when she had Queenie. And it was one of those things where Queenie's dad was much older. So it was like this much older man preying on this teen girl. And then when she got pregnant, it was like, I'm done with you. And in the TV series, like Queenie, like Sylvie, her mom, never saw this man ever again. In the book, like Queenie doesn't have a relationship with her father, but she knows that he went back to Jamaica and he's in Jamaica somewhere. In the TV series, she has no idea what happened to this man. Like this man, as I said, abandoned Sylvie as soon as Sylvie got pregnant and was like, peace. And they never saw him again. So at one point, once Queenie's a little bit older, Sylvie ends up dating another man named Roy. Roy is again much older and he is also extremely abusive. So Queenie sees this man abusing her mother verbally and physically, and he verbally abuses Queenie. And so she sees this growing up, and at one point her mom is like it's over and they move into their own apartment, but then she ends up getting back together with Roy, and she moves in with Roy and leaves Queenie at this apartment. And no one has any idea that Queenie was living by herself for several months, and she went through months. Like, sometimes her mom would visit her, but there would be extended periods of time when she didn't see her mom at all, and she was literally living by herself in this apartment as an 11-year-old little girl. And it isn't until her Aunt Maggie finds her and gets her out of there that Queenie finally has a stable home. That is extremely traumatizing, and that would be extremely traumatizing for anyone to go through. In the book, I feel like it was so much easier for Queenie to forgive Sylvie in the book than it is in the TV series. So Queenie doesn't want to see her mom at the beginning of the book, and then that kind of just shifts. And her mom, like, anytime her mom comes over, she overhears a conversation between Sylvie and Maggie about Sylvie being like, I'm like such a horrible mom, blah, blah, blah. And after Queenie overhears this, like, she softens her heart and like pretty much immediately lets her mother in. In the TV series, it's a lot more difficult for her to forgive her mom. She doesn't really forgive her mom and doesn't get that closure until the final episode. And I feel like that makes a lot more sense to me. Now, I understand everyone's journey of forgiveness is different. Some people, it's just really easy for them to forgive, no matter how they were treated by someone. And other people, it's a little bit more difficult for them to forgive. However, considering that she was abandoned by her mother as a little girl and left to fend for herself for months, and that her mom chose this abusive man over her, I feel like her journey of forgiving her mother just made a lot more sense to me in the TV series than it did in the book. Because I feel like it would be very difficult to forgive your mother for something like that. And I just want to be very clear, I'm not shaming victims who stay with abusive partners. There's a variety of reasons why people stay. And so I'm not here to judge anyone who has stayed or decided to stay once. I'm just saying that, like, putting myself in Queenie's shoes, I would be so angry at my mom if she chose an abusive man over me. I would be so mad. And so I think, like I said, Queenie's journey to forgiveness just feels a lot more fleshed out in the TV series than it did in the book. In the book, I just felt like it was so easy for her to forgive her mother. And in the TV series, like, she struggled. Like, her mom keeps trying to make amends, and Queenie is just like, nope, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to talk to you. No, I don't want you in my life. Until she goes to therapy and she starts talking to her therapist, and she makes that decision of like, I do want a relationship with my mom and I'm choosing to forgive her. And she does. And I also want to say, it felt authentic to me because we see her go on this journey. And it would have felt authentic to me as well if she hadn't forgiven her mom. Everyone's journey is different, and everyone's journey of forgiveness is different. And I'm not here to say you're not allowed to forgive someone who hurt you, or why would you ever forgive someone who hurt you like that. That is a personal decision, and whatever decision you decide to make is the right decision for you. So I just want to, in case anyone needs to hear it, just want to remind you that whatever decision you decide to make is the right decision for you, and no one should shame you either way. You're gonna get shamed, unfortunately, but they shouldn't be shaming you, and it is your decision, whatever it is. But I'm just speaking, like, putting myself in Queenie's shoes. I just felt like her journey made a lot more sense. Her journey to forgiveness made a lot more sense in the TV series than it did in the book. But anyway, another change that I really liked in the TV series. Okay, well, really quick. So Guy, rough sex Guy, it turns out that he is her friend Cassandra's boyfriend. Again, she doesn't know that Guy is with Cassandra. It's one of those things that, like, Cassandra's always like talking about, like, my guy, my precious guy, and that's how she calls him. Queenie doesn't realize that when she says my guy, she means his name, Guy, not like, like how most people would say, like, my guy is a great guy. It's like, no, she's literally saying my guy as in my boyfriend named Guy. So Queenie doesn't put two and two together, obviously. Like, she doesn't realize that Cassandra has been name dropping Guy this whole time. But Cassandra's dating Guy, and she talks about, like, he's so respectful respectful. Like, he doesn't want to have sex until we're like he feels like it's too early in our relationship. Like, he wants to wait until we're like more committed to each other before we take that next step. And it's wonderful. And my guy is so great. And I will say, in the TV series, at the end of one of the episodes, it's revealed who Cassandra's boyfriend is. So like, we see her having a game night with her dad and her boyfriend, and the camera pans up, and like, we've heard Cassandra talk about her boyfriend this whole time, but we've never seen him. And so this is the big reveal. And like, as a viewer, I understand that this is a big reveal. Like, this isn't just some random guy. Like, we're supposed to recognize him as someone. And I'm watching it and I'm just like, I don't know who that is. Like, I was like, oh, it's Tom. I guess the actors who played Tom and Guy looked alike to me. But I was like, right, it's Tom. And then, like, but it didn't make sense to me, because I was like, but why would Cassandra, like, date Tom and not tell Queenie? But, like, Cassandra keeps saying, like, you don't know my boyfriend. And I was like, does that mean Cassandra never met Tom when he and Queenie were still together? And then when the plot twist happened, at one point, like, Queenie and Cassandra are supposed to hang out, and Queenie never shows up to the restaurant where they're supposed to be having brunch. So Cassandra goes to Queenie's place, and as she's talking to Queenie, being like, why didn't you show up? Guy comes down the stairs, and Cassandra's like, that's my boyfriend Guy. And I was like, oh, that's who the big reveal was. Got it. All right. Sorry, Tom and Guy, for confusing the two of you. But anyway, so Cassandra is like pissed off at Queenie, and she says some really awful things. Like, she calls her a whore, and just like really, really awful things, and essentially ends the friendship. In the book ends with Queenie celebrating her birthday, and they're like at a restaurant, or I don't know if they're celebrating her birthday, but there's like a big celebration, and they're at a restaurant. It's like Queenie and like her grandparents, her Aunt Maggie, her mom, and Darcy and Cheske. And then Cassandra shows up, and Darcy's like, sorry, I'm the one that invited her. I apologize, like, if I wasn't meant to. And so Cassandra and Queenie talk it out in the restaurant bathroom, and they work things out, and Queenie like decides to forgive Cassandra, and so Cassandra joins the party. But in the TV series, Queenie, before she's told by the newspaper, like, you can get your job back if you want, she very briefly works at a coffee shop, and while she's there working, Cassandra shows up, and Queenie's like, nah, you know what, I don't forgive you for, like, you said some really awful things to me. Like, I don't forgive you. Have a nice life. We're not, like, this friendship is over. And Cassandra leaves. And so in the TV series, she actually doesn't stay friends with Cassandra. But all right, another character that is in the TV series who's not at all in the book is Cheske's cousin. So Cheske has a cousin who very obviously has a crush on Queenie, and they're interacting, but nothing, like, Queenie doesn't see him as anything other than Cheske's cousin until the final episode. In the final episode, they're celebrating Queenie's housewarming party. She is finally able to move out of her grandparents' house again, and she has a nice studio apartment. And so she's having a housewarming party, and Cheske's cousin shows up, and he's like, you know, I like you, right? And she's like, yeah, I know you like me. And then one more thing before we get to that. Sorry, it's like I'm remembering things as they come along. So in the book and the TV series, Queenie goes to Tom's old place, or to her old place that she used to live in with Tom, and she tries to talk to him, and she finds out that he has a new girlfriend, and she's like, wow, you moved on really fast. Like, I'm over here pining for you, and you already have a new girlfriend. And he's like, that's just how it worked out. So we never see Tom again after this. She sees Tom has moved on, and that kind of gives her the closure to, like, this really sucks. I do miss him. I do still have feelings for him, but I have the closure that I need. I'm gonna officially, like, forget about him. And that's when she, like, deletes his number. In the TV series, she and Cheske's cousin start making out, and it's like, all right, they're now a couple, like, or they're going to become a couple in the future of this world. And as she's making out with Cheske's cousin, Tom shows up with flowers, and it's like, ooh, is she gonna take him back? I don't know. But then she doesn't. And we see Tom holding flowers and kind of just looking at her like, wow, okay. And the next shot is the flowers inside the garbage can in her apartment, and it ends with her and her mom just talking and reconnecting and getting to know each other again. So The book ends with like a huge celebration in which she's forgiven her mom and Cassandra, and everyone is there, her whole family and her friends, and it's just a celebration, and Queenie's happy with the progress she's made. And the TV series ends with her in a new relationship with a guy who seems to genuinely like her, and no more Tom. And it ends with her and just her and her mom in her studio apartment getting to know each other. So I really, really liked the ending of the TV series in that sense that it ends with her and her mom kind of just starting over. And that's the last image we see, is mother and daughter reuniting and forming that relationship again. And it's just a really wonderful image to end on for the TV series. What I really liked about the book's ending, though, is that she doesn't end up with anyone. I like that they, we throughout the series, we see her hooking up with non-Black men, and it's nice to think that the guy who's more than likely going to become her boyfriend now is Black. But I like that she ends up with no one in the book. I really like that because to me, it just shows how far she's come. And mind you, she has made that same progress in the TV series. So I think that's why she's ready to have a relationship with Chesky's cousin. Like, it's definitely not going to be just a sexual relationship. Like, there's going to be an actual connection and genuine likes for each other. But I really, really like that it ends with Queenie not needing a man. And again, not that she needs a man in the TV series, but it's just a lot more like poignant to me in the book. Like that point is just a lot more obvious of like, I don't need a man. I'm happy being single. And whenever I meet someone, it's gonna be great. As opposed to like the TV series where we see this guy who has been pining for her, and he does treat her well. And it, like I said, it's not gonna be a nasty, just a hookup situation. And she has grown in her power and she doesn't need a man. But I just really, to me, it's just a lot more. That message of like, I don't need a man is just a lot more in your face in the book, since she really doesn't end up with the man. So I really, really liked that ending in the book, that she ends up with just herself and the people that stuck by her. Now, she does make a comment about Cassandra, like, these are all the people that stuck by me. Not Cassandra, but actually, she does end up forgiving Cassandra, but it does end kind of ambiguous as to whether or not that friendship will continue. Like, she allows Cassandra to stay, but it's like, these are the people that stuck by me through it all. Cassandra didn't, and we'll see if in the future she does or not. And if she doesn't, then I'm okay with cutting her out of my life. Yeah, I just really, really liked that the book ends with Queenie and just her and herself not needing anyone, and the support system that stuck through it all with her. I don't mind that she ends up with a boyfriend necessarily in the TV series, but I just really, really liked that it's like she's happy being single in the book. So yeah, that was it. So one thing, that was a change I really, really liked. But one change I really liked in the TV series was her deciding not to continue working at the newspaper because she really wasn't valued. And even in the book, I don't feel like she was very valued. And she's happy with the job she ends up getting at the end. So I'm not faulting her. She's happy. But I really like that in the TV series, she's like, I'm not valued here. And these are not the stories. I'm going to ensure I'm telling the stories that I want to tell. So I really liked that detail. I didn't mind Cassandra. I like that we got to see both endings to Cassandra. We got to see her forgiving Cassandra, and we got to see her not forgiving Cassandra. And I think both work. I think they're both justified in their own way. And like I said, whatever works for her. Worked book Queenie, it worked. The best thing for her was to forgive Cassandra. TV Queenie, the best thing for her was to not forgive Cassandra. So I really it didn't bother me that she doesn't become friends with Cassandra. And it didn't bother me that she decides to try the friendship again with Cassandra. So yeah, one thing about Cassandra's portrayal in the novel is controversial because, as I mentioned, Cassandra is Jewish, and some people felt that the novel contained anti-Semitic tropes. We don't see this in the TV series, or at least I didn't notice this in the TV series. But yes, in the book, what the anti-Semitic trope is that, Cassandra's Jewish and she's lending Queenie money and she's expecting Queenie to pay her back. She doesn't drop the topic of I'm lending you money and I expect you to pay me back every cent. In the TV series, I don't think Cassandra lends her any money, which is why I'm saying I didn't notice the anti-Semitic trope in the TV series, but some critics of the novel have pointed out, they like the novel, but they have pointed out that Cassandra is problematic and that she is an anti-Semitic trope or can be considered an anti-Semitic trope the way she is portrayed in the novel. There's also an author cameo in the TV series. So as Queenie is starting to feel better and starting to go out into the world and kind of discover her passions or rediscover her passions, she is invited by Chesky to this gallery that features just Black female artists, and she's really inspired by this art that she's seeing. And that's kind of when she's I want to talk to the artist of this and bring her story to the world. And so that's kind of what starts inspiring her in terms of what stories she what journalistic approach she wants to take. And Candice plays, I don't think she plays one of the artists. No, she doesn't play an artist. Queenie's talking about about an art piece, and Candice and this other lady who I think she might just be an actor, approaching her oh, we hear you talking about the piece. What do you think? And Queenie says her opinion and they're wow, you're very nuanced. And Queenie's thanks. And she's the one that isn't Candice is I'm the artist of these paintings. And Queenie's I would love to interview you. And she's are you an artist too? And that's when Candice says, no, I write books. And that's how I know it was an author cameo. It was just very pointed. And it's yeah, there we have an author cameo. So anyway, let's get into it. I rated the book 3 stars and I rated the TV series 3 stars as well. However, I do feel that the book edges the TV series out just the tiniest bit. So for me, the winner is the book. They're both fantastic, and I think they're both worth checking out. I think the TV series is a great adaptation of the book, and I think the changes made in the TV series enhanced it. The only change I wish they hadn't made, as I said, was I kind of wish they had just left Queenie single and happily single the way she is in the book. But otherwise, I thought the changes they made just really helped enhance that story. I loved that Queenie had more of a journey in forgiving her mother. I love that Queenie decided not to go back to the newspaper. But I really, really like the ending of the book and the way it's written, in which she's reflecting back on who she is and how much she's grown as a person. And she's this is all I need. These are the people that stuck with me through my most difficult times. And as long as I have them, I'll be okay. And yeah, so I really I think the ending is what edges out the book a little bit more for me. But the TV adaptation is great, and the changes they made just really enhanced the story. So that is it for this week's episode. And oh my gosh, I can actually tell you which episode you can expect next week. Next week, I will be talking about Let the Right One In by Jean Lindquist. He has a middle name, but I don't know how to pronounce it. So I will look up how to pronounce it for next time. And it's adaptation, Let the Right One In. And I'm going to be doing Let the Right One In. Because I was because there is an American adaptation, but the American adaptation is technically called Let Me In. So no, just know I will be doing Let the Right One In versus Let the Right One In. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave it a rating and a review and share it with all your friends. Tell them all about this podcast, and I will see you next time. Bye. Really quick, one thing I forgot to add is that Candice Carty-Williams is actually the showrunner of the Queenie TV show. So no author consulting needed to be done. She literally told the story the way she wanted to tell it, and the changes are definitely author approved. All right, see you next time.